Officer James Wilson stood in line at the local coffee shop, his patience wearing thin as he watched the well-dressed black man ahead of him methodically counting change for his purchase. Wilson, a 30-year veteran of the force, had already worked a double shift and was running late for a meeting. His uniform felt tight, his temper even tighter. "Some of us have real jobs to get to," Wilson muttered loud enough for others to hear, earning uncomfortable glances from other customers. The man ahead turned slightly, his calm demeanor only fueling Wilson's irrational anger. When the man finally finished and turned to leave, Wilson stepped into his path. In a moment of blind prejudice that would haunt him forever, he spat directly in the man's face. Gasps erupted throughout the coffee shop. The man slowly wiped his face with a handkerchief, his dignity intact, his eyes boring into Wilson's with an unsettling calm that should have been Wilson's first warning. 2 hours later, Wilson sat in the precinct's main conference room with other officers, waiting for the announcement of their new police chief. The door opened and Wilson's coffee shop victim walked in, wearing a crisp police uniform adorned with chief's insignia, his face freshly cleaned. Still, his eyes carried the memory of the morning's assault. "Good morning, officers. I'm Chief Marcus Richardson, your new commanding officer." The color drained from Wilson's face as he recognized the man he had just committed assault against. Chief Richardson's eyes met Wilson's, and in that moment, Wilson knew his career and life would never be the same. Wilson spent the next week in paralyzing anxiety, expecting to be fired or worse, arrested for assaulting a police chief. But Chief Richardson's response proved more powerful than any punishment. Instead of being terminated, Wilson was assigned to community outreach programs in predominantly black neighborhoods, paired with veteran officer James Thompson, a respected black officer known for his work in community relations. Each day felt like a mirror being held up to Wilson's prejudices. The assignments weren't punishment, they were education in its rawest form. During a heated community meeting about police brutality, Wilson watched Chief Richardson handle volatile discussions with the same dignity he'd shown that morning in the coffee shop. After the meeting, Wilson finally found his courage. "Chief, about what I did that morning. What I did to you." "Officer Wilson," Richardson interrupted, "I could have ended your career that very moment. Instead, I let that moment end with something else, your ignorance. How's that working out?" The conversation that followed lasted hours, touching on personal experiences, generational trauma, and the weight of bias in law enforcement. Wilson left the office understanding that true strength isn't in the ability to humiliate others, but in the power to transform them. 6 months later, Wilson stood before a group of new recruits, sharing his story of transformation. He didn't spare himself any shame as he recounted his actions that morning. "I spat in the face of the man who would become my chief," he told them, his voice heavy with emotion. "But instead of ending my career, he chose to end my prejudice. One moment of hatred doesn't define you, but how you respond to recognizing that hatred does." Chief Richardson watched from the back of the room as his once hostile officer taught others about the corrosive nature of prejudice and the transformative power of leadership through understanding. The story concludes with Wilson and Richardson working together at a community reconciliation event. Their violent first encounter transformed into a powerful testimony of how confronting our worst moments can lead to our greatest growth. If you enjoyed this intense story of redemption and transformation, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Watch how hatred turns into hope and prejudice into progress. Plus, stay tuned for more powerful stories that challenge perspectives and inspire change. Like, share, and hit that notification bell to never miss our next thought-provoking video.